The night had descended over the sprawling estate of billionaire Adrian Langford, the kind of night where the city lights sparkled like distant stars, but the streets hummed with restless whispers. Guests mingled in the grand hall, champagne flutes in hand, laughter bouncing off the crystal chandeliers. The scent of roasted lamb and fresh flowers filled the air, mingling with the soft notes of a string quartet in the corner. It should have been a night of celebration, yet an undercurrent of tension threaded through the warmth, unnoticed by most. Marina, Adrian's wife, adjusted her pearl necklace and glanced at her children, a sense of unease prickling at her spine. She brushed it off as pre-event jitters, unaware of the danger about to pierce their carefully constructed evening. Suddenly, the sharp metallic click of the front gate startled everyone. A collective hush fell across the ballroom. Before anyone could process, three masked figures burst through the main entrance, guns raised, eyes wild and calculating. Screams erupted like thunder, cutting through the delicate melody of the quartet. Glass shattered as the first masked man shoved aside a tray of hors d'oeuvres, spilling champagne across the marble floor. Panic cascaded through the guests. Some tried to escape toward the nearest exits. Others froze, paralyzed by fear. Adrian's face tightened, his commanding presence faltering as he realized the gravity of the threat. "Everyone stay calm. Don't move too fast," he barked, but his voice wavered, betraying his own unease. In the center of the chaos, Naomi, the family's maid, remained immobile for a heartbeat too long for the others to comprehend. Her dark eyes scanned the room, observing the robbers' positioning, the trembling of the guests, and the subtle shifts in the attacker's stance. She noted the tension in their shoulders, the slight trembling of one's fingers around the gun, and the hesitant glance exchanged between two of them. Most people would have been paralyzed by such fear, but she recognized that panic was a weapon just as much as aggression. She stepped lightly, almost imperceptibly, toward the children, her presence a grounding force amid the cacophony. A young boy, no older than 8, clutched at his mother's dress, eyes wide, lips quivering. Naomi crouched beside him, whispering, "It's okay to feel scared. I've got you. Breathe with me." One of the robbers, a tall man with a scar slicing down his left cheek, barked orders. "Everyone, hands up. Move toward the safe." Now, the guests shuffled, some knocking over chairs, others colliding in their haste. Adrian's wife, Marina, stumbled as she tried to herd their children, panic rising like a tidal wave. Naomi, noticing a loose chair under the boy's foot, gently lifted him and set him behind a low table, shielding him from direct line of sight. Her voice, steady and calm, carried over the rising tension, cutting through the din like a blade. "You're here for money. You don't want to hurt anyone. Stay focused. Make smart choices, or this gets worse for all of us," she said to the masked intruders, her eyes unwavering, her tone commanding respect she did not need to demand. The robbers froze for a fraction of a second, unaccustomed to such composure. One of them cursed under his breath, clearly rattled. Naomi continued, pointing to the scattered items around the room. "Look at your hands shaking. You're letting fear lead. Take a breath. Calm down. You're not thinking clearly." Her words were deliberate, each syllable designed to instill doubt in their confidence. The leader, the man with the scar, took a slow step toward her, gun raised, but his eyes flicked to the children hiding behind the table. Naomi's gaze did not waver. "Touch the kids, and it becomes murder. You're here for money, not to make headlines for killing a family. Think about your next move carefully." The air seemed to tighten, as if her composure had drawn a visible line through the chaos, separating courage from blind panic. Adrian stepped forward, trying to regain control. "Naomi, stay back. You can't." His words were cut off by the sudden clang of a knocked-over vase. Marina clutched her husband's arm, whispering in terror. But Naomi held her ground, unshaken. She noticed the small misalignment in the leader's stance, the slight overextension of his wrist as he held the gun, the way his boots scraped against the polished floor. Every micro-movement was a signal, a hint of vulnerability, and she filed each detail away, ready to act when the moment came. She whispered to the children, her voice soft but firm, "Stay low, stay quiet. I'm right here. Remember, no one has to get hurt if we stay calm." Another robber, younger, jittery, kept pacing, clearly unaccustomed to holding a weapon against humans. His eyes darted between Naomi and the rest of the family, trying to assess dominance. Naomi's calm presence unnerved him further. She stepped toward him, slow and deliberate, her hands open, non-threatening yet authoritative. If you want to leave tonight without consequences, focus. Calm is your ally. Fear is your enemy. Make the right choice. The robber flinched as if her words had struck him physically, lowering the gun slightly. In that heartbeat of hesitation, Naomi's mind raced through contingencies, memorizing exits, weak points, and the exact spacing between each intruder. The other guests murmured in awe and fear, watching Naomi with wide eyes. No one had expected a maid, someone who usually polished silver and organized schedules, to suddenly become the anchor in a storm of violence. She's not afraid, one of the guests whispered to another, clutching a wine glass like a lifeline. How is she not afraid? Another simply shook their head, eyes glued to Naomi, who now subtly shifted to keep the children further behind a couch, shielding them from sight. The tension stretched taut in the room. The robbers, unnerved by her composure, glanced at each other, questioning their own instincts. Naomi noticed the leader's slight hesitation, a microsecond lapse in aggression, and filed it away, knowing action would be required soon. She maintained eye contact with the children, offering reassurance without diminishing the gravity of the situation. "You've got this," she whispered to the boy. "It's okay to feel scared. I'm right here. Just stay with me." The words were simple, yet in the chaos, they carried the weight of a protective fortress, a shield built from calm, courage, and quiet authority. The room seemed suspended in an uneasy limbo. Glasses teetered on tables, a spilled drink left a glistening trail, and the faint echo of a distant siren hinted at the city beyond. Yet within the walls of Adrian Langford's estate, time slowed for those who were terrified and stretched for those who had found clarity. Naomi's presence, the steady heartbeat of someone who refused to succumb to panic, became the fulcrum around which the night would pivot. Every other guest had faltered, every other adult had frozen, but she, silent and observant, prepared to turn fear into strategy and strategy into survival. Naomi's calm didn't waver as the robbers reassessed the room, guns wavering in their hands. The scarred leader, Malik, furrowed his brow, clearly unsettled by a maid who refused to cower. "Step aside," he snapped, voice sharp, but Naomi's stance didn't shift. Her dark eyes locked on his, steady and unyielding. She subtly edged closer to the children, positioning herself as both shield and anchor, every muscle poised for movement. Her mind calculated, planned, and timed. She had been through far worse than this, though no one in the lavish mansion would guess it. Her military past, a chapter long buried beneath civilian life, now whispered strategies into her thoughts, guiding each motion and each word. "Don't touch the kids," she said, her voice slicing through the tension. "You're here for money. Nothing else. You don't have to make this worse." Malik's eyes narrowed, his gun shaking slightly. One of his accomplices, a younger man named Reese, fidgeted nervously, glancing at the other guests, and Naomi noticed how uncertainty gnawed at their composure. She let them stew in that doubt, keeping her voice calm but commanding. "I'm not moving. You want everyone unharmed? Keep your distance. Keep your hands steady. You've got one shot at this without disaster." Her words, spoken in measured cadence, unsettled them further. The guests huddled together, whispering prayers and gasping softly at each sound. Marina clutched her daughter's hand, eyes wide with fear. Adrian's jaw was tight, his authoritative persona faltering as he watched Naomi. He wanted to intervene, but could see clearly that she had taken command. He whispered to his wife, She's handling this." Marina nodded, her lips pressed together, hope mingling with terror. Naomi crouched slightly, her eyes scanning the room, memorizing positions. She noticed the weak lock on the side door, a possible escape route for both intruders and hostages. Everything mattered. Every detail could mean life or death. Malik barked orders, forcing the adults to their knees. Adrian obeyed reluctantly, his pride bruised, but his trust in Naomi unspoken. Naomi knelt beside the children, her hand firm on the boy's shoulder. "Stay low," she instructed softly. "No one touches you. Focus on me. Breathe with me." She sensed the robber's rising impatience, a dangerous spark in Malik's eyes. Then, in a motion so swift it blurred, she grabbed a loose vase from a nearby table and hurled it past Malik, shattering against the far wall. The distraction was enough. Before he could react, Naomi lunged, using leverage to knock the gun from his hand, disarming him in a controlled, practiced motion. The other intruders froze, shock painted across their faces. Reese, younger and more reckless, lunged forward, but Naomi sidestepped, spinning him toward a wall, using his momentum against him. A precise strike to his shoulder left him stunned and off balance. Her calm voice cut through the tension. This doesn't have to end badly. Step back and think. She wasn't just acting on instinct. Every movement reflected rigorous training and discipline, each step calculated to minimize harm. The family, now on the floor, stared in disbelief. They had seen brave acts in movies, read about heroism in books, but witnessing it firsthand, Naomi, their quiet maid, executing moves that were deadly efficient was something else entirely. Malik lunged for a small hidden pistol in his coat. Naomi's hand moved faster. She caught his wrist, twisted, and sent the weapon skittering across the floor. The gun clanged against the marble, drawing sharp gasps from the guests. Naomi's stance was unflinching, her focus absolute. She pressed Malik against the wall, her voice steady yet commanding. This is your last chance. Stay calm, and no one gets hurt. Move carelessly, and I promise consequences you won't forget. The children remained huddled behind her, faces pale but eyes wide with awe. They whispered to one another, as if sharing a secret. She's protecting us. She's like a superhero. Naomi moved toward Reese, now half-crouched and trembling. She pinioned him against the arm of a sofa, keeping his gun aimed toward the floor, far from any target. Her presence radiated control, a silent assertion of authority that neither Malik nor Reese dared challenge. The remaining robber, a tall man named Darius, hesitated at the edge of the room, clearly calculating escape routes rather than engaging. Naomi's gaze met his, unflinching. You're not leaving until it's safe, she said softly, almost conversationally, yet every word held weight. The room was a chessboard, and she moved with precision, orchestrating survival with unmatched skill. Adrian finally found his voice. Naomi. I don't know how, but she cut him off with a subtle shake of her head. Focus on keeping calm. Watch the exits. Help the children if needed. Don't get in my way. It wasn't rude, it was necessity. The stakes were too high for sentimentality. Marina, clutching her daughter, whispered a trembling, thank you, while the guests, witnessing control in the face of terror, held their breath. Each second stretched, thick with tension, until Naomi had maneuvered the three intruders into positions where they were contained and powerless to act aggressively, without immediate consequences. Malik glared, rage and fear flickering in his eyes. Naomi noticed the subtle twitch in his jaw, the faint shaking of his hands. She leaned just slightly, whispering, You came for money, not headlines. Walk out of here without harm, and you can live with your choices. Her tone was gentle but firm, the paradoxical mixture that disarmed more than fists ever could. She glanced briefly at Adrian and Marina, catching their eye. They nodded, or written across their faces. It was clear that Naomi had not just protected the children, but had systematically dismantled the threat, her courage transforming chaos into control. Darius finally lowered his weapon, a reluctant nod acknowledging Naomi's dominance. Malik and Reese, subdued and disoriented, realized resistance would only worsen the outcome. In less than 10 minutes, Naomi had turned the tide. The room, once a stage for terror, now held an eerie quiet. The children peeked from behind her, faces still pale, but no longer paralyzed. The guests slowly exhaled, the collective tension melting into nervous relief. Naomi's eyes softened just slightly, allowing the smallest glimpse of warmth for those she had protected. It's okay now. Stay calm, and the rest is easy, she murmured, her voice a tether grounding the household to safety. The wail of police sirens grew louder as blue and red lights danced against the mansion walls, reflecting off shattered glass and scattered debris. Naomi kept the intruders pinned with unwavering focus until officers swarmed the estate, guns drawn, shouting commands. Malik, Reese, and Darius were handcuffed in rapid succession, their resistance finally broken. The guests, previously frozen in fear, slowly rose, eyes wide with a mix of relief and lingering disbelief. Marina ran to Naomi, hugging her tightly as her voice trembled. How did you do that? You saved them, all of them." Naomi gently disentangled herself, placing a reassuring hand on the girl's shoulder. "I stayed calm. That's all. Courage comes from refusing to let fear control you." Her eyes scanned the room, ensuring every child remained unharmed, before finally allowing herself a brief exhale. Adrian approached Naomi, his usual authoritative demeanor softened by gratitude and astonishment. I don't even know what to say. You were incredible." Naomi gave a faint, modest smile. "I've been trained for situations like this," she said quietly, letting the truth slip in a controlled manner. "Before working here, I served in the military. Discipline and focus. They come from experience, not just bravery." The revelation hung in the air, transforming the household's awe into deeper respect. Adrian's jaw tightened as he processed her past, the kind of past that explained her near-superhuman composure. He realized the woman he had underestimated, the quiet maid in the corner, had been the linchpin holding his family's life together during those harrowing minutes. Marina looked at Naomi with tears glistening in her eyes. "We never knew. We judged too quickly. You're not just part of our home, you're our shield." Naomi shook her head gently, brushing off the praise. "I did what anyone should when children are involved. Protecting them isn't about heroism. It's about responsibility." She crouched down, meeting the eyes of the two young children, who had begun to understand the scale of what had just happened. "You were brave too," she told them softly. "Being scared doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. But staying calm when it matters, that's strength." The children nodded slowly, absorbing her words as if they were talismans to carry with them forever. Outside, police officers took statements, securing evidence, and ensuring the intruders would face the full force of the law. Adrian and Marina escorted Naomi to the foyer, wanting to express more than just gratitude, to acknowledge her sacrifice and skill. Guests lingered nearby, some snapping photos discreetly, whispering among themselves about the night's dramatic turn. Naomi remained composed, but there was a subtle exhaustion beneath her polished exterior. Her mind ran through the sequence of events, the calculations that had saved the family, and the narrow margins by which disaster had been averted. Yet she didn't dwell on it. She had done her duty, and that was enough. Later, in the quiet of the mansion's study, Adrian and Marina sat with Naomi, offering her comfort, tea, and words of recognition. "We've employed many people over the years," Adrian said, voice low, respectful. "But never anyone like you. You've changed how we view courage, loyalty, everything." Naomi smiled faintly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Courage isn't the absence of fear," she said softly. "It's the decision to act despite it. I could see panic spreading, and I chose not to let it win. That's all." Marina nodded, reaching out to squeeze her hand. "You've shown us that even the quietest person can carry the loudest strength. We'll never forget this." The children peeked in, shy smiles forming, understanding they were safe because of Naomi's unwavering heart. As the night wound down, the mansion returned to an eerie calm. Police had cleared the scene, the intruders were in custody, and guests slowly departed, shaken but unharmed. Naomi moved quietly through the rooms, ensuring everything was in order, checking that the children were comfortable, and giving the family moments to process what had transpired. Adrian followed her, feeling an unfamiliar mix of awe and humility. "You've saved our lives," he said, almost whispering. Naomi looked at him calmly, shrugging gently. "We all have courage inside us. Sometimes, you just have to decide to use it." Marina wrapped a soft blanket around her daughter, smiling through tears. "And sometimes, courage comes wrapped in someone you never expected to notice," she said, glancing at Naomi with profound gratitude. By the time dawn's first light filtered through the mansion windows, the household had shifted. Fear had been replaced with reflection, panic with respect, and shock with newfound admiration for the quiet woman who had carried them through the storm. Naomi sat quietly in the kitchen, sipping tea, while Adrian and Marina discussed future precautions and security measures. The children played nearby, their laughter cautious but unrestrained, a stark contrast to the terror of the night before. The entire family had been reminded, in the most dramatic way, that appearances could deceive. Naomi, the unassuming maid, had revealed a strength and intelligence that no wealth or title could measure. In the weeks that followed, the story of that night spread quietly among friends and neighbors, eventually reaching local news outlets. Naomi never sought attention or recognition. She declined interviews and politely redirected praise to doing her job. Adrian and Marina, however, made sure to honor her in their own way, raising her salary, offering bonuses, and integrating her more fully into family decisions. They realized that true bravery often comes without applause, and the most dangerous skill sometimes resides in the softest voice. In the mansion's quiet corridors, Naomi's presence became a symbol of resilience, strategy, and protective love. The family learned a lesson that would remain etched in memory. Courage is often hid. Her son. Naomi's gaze occasionally drifted to the children, smiling faintly as she recalled the fear and disbelief that had filled the room hours ago. She had acted because it was necessary, not for glory, and yet she had changed the family forever. Adrian, watching her, understood that wealth could buy comfort, status could buy influence, but only courage and skill could truly save lives. And in that realization, the mansion felt different, safer, warmer, grounded in the knowledge that even in the darkest night, a steady heart and a calm mind could illuminate a path to survival. Moral lesson. True courage is revealed not by the absence of fear, but by choosing to act despite it. Quiet people can possess extraordinary strength, and heroism often comes in unexpected forms. Calm, clarity, and focus can disarm chaos more effectively than aggression. Protecting those who are vulnerable is a measure of character, and resilience is cultivated through preparation and courage. Every person has potential for bravery in critical moments. Life may test us, but remaining composed, thoughtful, and decisive can turn fear into triumph. Never underestimate the power within yourself or those who appear ordinary. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, share with friends, and comment your perspectives on courage and unexpected heroes.